everybody, this is Dustin Mahaffey over at Geek Boy Repairs, and this is my first video in probably a year, and I'm sorry about that. I've just been a little busy, and to make these videos, it takes a 2-hour job or an hour job, and to double that, which is 3 or 4 hours. So something that I really need to get back into the flow with. But essentially today, what we're going to go over is the iPhone 13 Pro sandwich separation and reball. And then put back together. I'm doing this because it's something that I've always struggled with. Just to give you a little bit of background, on the 11 and prior, I've always been able to just separate that sandwich and put it back together without having to reball it. I've been very lucky that way. But the 12 and 13 have higher temperature solder, so it makes it so you can't just slap them babies back together anymore, or I'm not able to. So I kind of had to learn to reball. I hadn't had to learn to reball the sandwiches before this. So I kind of spent the day, I figured it out, and I kind of want to share with you guys how I learned to do it. Now I'm sure a couple of professionals will be like, oh, don't do it that way, this is a better way. Well, then make a video and show the better way. I'll definitely watch it, but this is the way I do it. So we're going to use this Quan Lee reballing stencil, as well as the mechanic board heater. I'm using this one because I bought this and I actually had Mobile Centrics stock this because I wanted to try it, this board heater here, and it's a complete piece of crap. I put a 12 donor board on it to test it. That worked great. I put a client board on it, and within 30 seconds, the dang board overheated itself. I mean, I'm talking about 30 seconds, okay? So this goes in the trash. All right, and so we're going to be using the mechanic. It's this cheap one, but it works great. And then at the end, you'll see I'm going to be mixing it with a little hot air to kind of help loosen it up. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first step of really any sandwich separation is to remove these little films here. Get them all off because they'll melt and start getting all over the connectors, and we want this to look like a clean job. So we'll just kind of pick these right off, just like that. Put that over to the side. And I forgot to say that this board has Wi-Fi issues, okay? So normally that is just a sandwich problem. It's not the Wi-Fi module itself. It's just a break in the sandwich or maybe some torn pads. So if it's torn pads, you'll see how I repair the pads, and as well as the sandwich reball. So it looks like that's all of them, all of the little fuzzies. Yep, all right, cool. So now we'll go ahead and put it on our board heater and get that process started. All right, so now that we have the iPhone 13 Pro on the board heater, we'll go ahead and turn on the bottom heat, and we are going to wait. Now this is going to take quite a bit more time than the 11 and prior series, because again, the temperature to melt is way higher. And while I'm waiting for that to heat up, I'll just take the tip off my quick. So I'm using no tip, no nozzle. All right, and I'm going to turn on my heat. On my workstation, I have a quick 861 DW. I'm going to use about 371 and 70 airflow. And again, that's just so we can kind of heat the top part of the board as the bottom's heating, but we're going to do that at the very end, or the very last part. First, we're going to wait for the board to get completely hot, okay? And this is a process. You don't want to keep the board sitting on the heater because you have, a very limited time between ready to separate and damaged iPhone, all right? So you want to be very careful of that. And again, you'll see I'll probably speed up this part of the video just until we're at the point of removal, just so you guys can see how long it takes. I'll put a countdown timer on how long I had to leave it on the heater for, all right? So we'll just wait for that. He's not moving at all. Oop. All right, so we'll just continue to wait. All right, about this time, I'm gonna start bringing in my top heat. And again, I'm kind of just going over really quickly the entire top half of the board to get it heated up. And then I'm gonna come in with my pick, see if the board's loose. She's not yet. Now talking to Jesse, he says that he's actually, and I'm gonna try it this time here, where I normally put a screw on one of these screw posts here and then just kind of pick it up with my tweezers. But Jesse suggested just taking the 007 blade or a blade and kind of picking it apart. Yeah, I like the... Oop, still nothing. And again, just kind of heating. You don't want to do too hot because you don't want to you definitely don't want to. Come on. Nope, still nothing yet. But I can see the flux bubbling on the side of the board, so it tells me I'm getting very close. All right. Come on, better be loose by now. Still nothing, so we'll do some more top hair. And this is just kind of going to be the process that I'm repeating, not trying to overheat anything, just kind of quickly hitting it with the top hair, checking to see if it's loose. Still not. And I've done this just with bottom board heat. It just takes a lot longer, and I don't like the comfort of it being on the bottom board heat for that long. All right, she's almost there. We're gonna hit her with top heat one more time, I think, and then she'll be good to go. This is probably the hardest part of this sandwich, is just to get it separated. After that is pretty easy. Bam, just like that. We're gonna immediately shut off our board heater so our heat shuts off. And if you look here, oh, I forgot to move the scope so you guys could see. I'm sorry, guys. So we'll just kind of switch to the scope here. And you'll see I don't have any torn pads, it doesn't look like. Let me turn up this light a little bit. I don't see any torn pads at all, so it's just probably more than likely a break in the sandwich somewhere. A lot of times what you see also is that if you have no service or no power on the phone, oops, get off those pads. You'll see that this here is cracked. This PMIC always cracks for some reason on the 12 and 13 series. All right, so we'll move that off to the side and we'll take a look at the top board. Again, I don't see any torn pads, anything like that. And kind of separated very easy. I don't see anything overheated. One of the tall sale signs if you use too much heat is this here, this little sticker will actually, oh, you guys can't really see, I'm sorry. You'll see that this sticker will kind of like bend up and melt up, but I don't have any of that. This looks like a clean separation. But how the best way to tell is we're going to, let me switch you over back to me. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to check and make sure the top board still boots, because this board will boot without a bottom board. Okay, so we're going to want to make sure that we didn't hurt anything by doing this separation. All right. From what my experience is, this will be just fine, but I always like to double check, especially on a newer model. I like to check if I could have made a mistake and at which process. So to kind of make that a little bit more clear, I think I kind of stumbled on my words, is in between every step of the repair, I like to check and make sure the board still works if I use like hot air or a board heater or something like that, because I don't want to get to the end of the repair and then it not work and me not know, okay, well, what part could I have messed up, and kind of have to retrace my steps. I'd rather know right as it happens, okay, this is what happened, so now I can kind of search for the problem in that area. All right, so now we're just kind of waiting for the boards to cool before I hook them up to my DC power supply, and then we'll go from there. All right. All right, so I kind of forgot to hit the record as I was getting this set up, but you'll see that I got just the top board here with the battery plugged in. Normally I'd use my DC power supply. I did use it just to see if there was a short or something like that. There was not, but my iPower is broken and it will not actually allow the phone to fully boot anymore. It just kind of goes to the Apple logo and restarts. So I can't use that, and I've got the iBoot on the way to replace that. But here it is with the battery fully powered on, so we know that our separation was successful and our top board is okay, which is the important part because that's where everybody's data is at. But we'll go ahead and turn this off and get to the next part of our repair. All right, so the next step is I'm going to get all this thermal compound out of here, just so it's not in our way. All right. Now, the first step that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add low solder paste or low temperature solder paste on it. And I do that because the wicking, if you try to wick it the way it is, it's not going to do a clean wick. It's not going to look good after. It's just, you're not going to, maybe I'll do a part of it where I try to wick it without actually applying the low paste so you can see what I'm talking about, but you'll get what looks like oxidized pads and whatnot if you do that. So what I'm going to use instead is this 148 mechanic paste. And just to show you here, I use this, it's a 148 melting temperature. That's actually what I'm going to be using to reball the board as well. So we'll be using this quite a bit today. And get that ready, switch you back to this microscope. Now for this, because I'm going to be touching that paste directly with my hands, I like to use a glove because that's lead. You know, you don't want lead on your hands. It's bad. That's why they took it out of toys and paint and all that good stuff. It's bad for you. All right. So now the next step is to go ahead and add some flux. I'm just going to kind of add a drop of flux here, 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 and just kind of all around the board. That way it kind of goes with me as I'm adding lower paste solder. Stay on there. Right here. All right, that looks about right. Okay, so now what we're going to do is make sure our iron's hot. We're going to take some of this paste and just kind of throw it on our workbench here so we can rub our iron in it. Take some of that, put it on our iron, and get started. We're just going to rub this in until they get all shiny, just like that. And we're going to add some more paste. That is the entire board, I believe. All right, so now we're going to come in with our wick. We're going to wick it. Wick it, wick it, wick it. Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to be singing. I'm not allowed. Pretty clean to me, pretty wick. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go up and clean up our mess, because you'll see that I made quite a bit of a mess with all this flux. So we'll just kind of start going ahead and cleaning that off. Get that flux off of there. You see I missed a pad there, that's okay. It will be okay. There's quite a bit of pads over here, huh? All right. They're okay. All right. That looks good. You can see the sandwich has been wicked. She is ready for a reball. We are going to put that one aside, and we got to do the same to our top board. Wick this one as well. just like that. All right, she is good to go. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll get rid of this. Let's switch you over to hand cam. All right, so we're gonna get rid of this little paper towel here. We can get rid of this flux that I put on the, or not flux, but paste that I put on the desk. All right, now we can get to the reballing aspect. So like I said, I'm going to use this, get this out of here, make this real small. All right, so I'm going to be using this Quanli, this is a 4-in-1 reballing set. This is the side that we need here. I'll take off our thing. So this is the stencil that we're going to need. I've used it before, so we're going to have to go ahead and clean that off, right? No, this is the one. Damn, these look practically the same as the 13 Pro Max. Oh, they're a little different. Okay. Alrighty, so we'll put these other two stencils away that we don't need. Alright, we're going to put our bottom board in. So now this is the part that can get a pain depending on the model, is the antenna. Okay, so that's with the board sitting in there, and you'll realize that we're not going to be able to fit this stencil on here. Put the wrong one away. This is the one I need. We're not going to be able to fit this stencil on here with that antenna very well. You'll see it's kind of, the stencil's lifting up right here, right? And we already have enough of the stencil lifting up when we're actually reballing. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of try to flatten this out a little bit. See if I can flatten it that way. See if that helps. That helped a little bit, okay? But it's still not flat. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is see if I can kind of manipulate this a little bit. All right, so Jesse had the great idea of dremeling out the spot where the antenna sits at, which after I bend it is going to be about to right here. And again, I'm so sorry about the dang camera and how it is fuzzy like that. Excuse me, fuzzy like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out that little gap for the 5G antenna. All right, so now I got my cutter with my protective goggles because, you know, safety first. And now I marked it, so I'm just going to kind of try to cut. Perfect. I think that's perfect. Wow, I think that's as good as we're going to get. Let's just take a look underneath the scope. Let me take these secure glasses off here. All right, so what I'm going to look at is over here where the antenna sticks out, right? You see it right there, and see if this is pressing up at all. And you can kind of see it's not. Even if I touch around it, it's not sinking closer to the board, so it looks like I got that cut in properly. So now we can continue with the reball. The next step is you'll see here, if you look, let me focus you guys. There we go. If you look here, you'll see that these balls are not aligned with the stencil properly. So what I'm going to try to do is move the phone, the board, because you can't really move the stencil, right? You can a little bit, but the stencil is pretty much set and where it's going to set. So I'm just going to try to position the board where I'm touching most of the pads, or I'm as accurate as possible anyway. So it looks like that's going to be as good as it gets, and we will check, make sure this is still sitting there right, and it is. So now we are ready to apply our paste. All right, we'll go ahead and do that. Once again, I use the 143 or 148 melting point paste. We're just going to start smearing that in. Okay, now we get to the more tricky parts, which is these around here. I just cut my glove open, I think. And just to try to get them around. Sometimes what I'll use is a Q-tip to kind of try to smear it in there.
get it as close up to that bracket as possible. But it's a pain, as you can see. Come on, fill in. And that's going to be good enough. All right, now we'll do down here. And this is literally the part that I hate. One of the parts that I hate the most is that trying to get it close to the sim tray and close to that bracket is such a pain in the butt for me. You know, these are one of the stopping points that I was doing when I was trying to practice before I started to learn actually how to do it. Was like, oh, I'm getting solder on the sim tray, I'm getting solder on the bracket. That can't work, and it's fine. We'll get it there, and then we'll clean it off later once the sandwich is reballed. Come on. Get in there. There we go. This is what I'm talking about. It's a pain in the butt to get it in those holes next to it because my fingers are fat. There we go. All right, now we clean all this crud up. And for that, I'm going to use a paper towel. And again, we're just trying to clean up all of the extra solder paste. All right. There we go. Now we'll switch you over to the hand camera there. So you can see now that all of the pads have solder on them, okay, and the rest of the excess solder is cleaned off, or solder paste is cleaned off. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pop this on there. And you'll see now with the new cut I have, this runs pretty much flat. You see a little bit of a gap there. It could stand to get a little deeper there, but that's okay. We're going to try it the way it is. I'm sure that will work fine. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put our tip back on. I do use the large tip that I use for MacBooks, this very large one, okay? And I'm going to set this to 371, I believe is what I normally use for this. It might be 380, but I think it's just 371. And now I'm going to just kind of hover up here. And I'm going to hover up here for a good minute or two. I want this entire thing to be hot. All right, now that I've done that, I'm going to bring my tweezers in and I'm going to press down. I'm just going to have the hot air sit in one spot until I start to see the solder balls melt. Notice I have my tweezers on the inside of the board instead of the outside. That's where I like to keep pressure. I find that works best for me anyway. And now we start to see the solder balls melting. And so we'll kind of move up our hot air. And we're moving our tweezers with the hot air, so essentially our stencil stays down. And of course the ground pads will melt slower. We're going to kind of keep moving up with our stencil. Just like that. We're going to take our tweezers and move to the other side. There we go. And you see there we go, it's starting to get easier as the board gets hotter. We're going to flip this around. There we go. Alright, I'm going to keep moving. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys can't see. Damn, I hope it wasn't like that the whole time. Get those up in the corner, good. Alright, hold down over here. Can you see up at the top, those didn't melt? That's okay. I'll show you how we're going to take care of that in a minute. We're going to finish these up, make sure they're all looking good. Alright, I think that's all of them. Yep, alright. So now we're going to quickly take the stencil off. Be careful because it's going to be very hot. And we're just going to kind of flick it off while it's still hot. No! The board went with it. That was not supposed to happen. Dang. Hopefully that didn't mess up our reball. Now what I'm looking for is joined pads. I'm not worried about missing pads at all. Like you see how these two here are missing. Who cares? That one's missing. Those 5 are missing. 6, 7 are missing. 8, 9, 10 are missing. 11, 12. Now remember, not all of those pads were actually stuff, right? Some of those were like this one here that's gold that I just kind of went over with solder. So it looks like maybe something should be there, but it shouldn't. So what we're gonna do now is we are going to put this on the top here. Oh, look over here. We got kind of a joint. So we're gonna clean all that up so none of them join up. This one goes over here. Come on. Go over there. Get off of there. All right, we don't want any of these to join. All right. So what we got here, now we're gonna put it on top of our board heater, okay? And we're gonna do that so it starts to look, dang, I'm sorry guys. It's been a while since I've made a video, so apparently my focus and my recording skills are not all there. So now what we're gonna do is, like I said, we're gonna put it on top of the board heater and we're going to let those balls solidify and make it look like it should, all right? So now we'll find the board heater and put it right here. And we're just gonna put it there. Gonna have it sit there. We're gonna plug this in. Yeah, we're gonna kind of just have to do this with the scope because you can't really see either that way. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this heat up a little bit. And while that's doing that, I'm going to add flux. So I'll stick a little bit out like this and then I'll just kind of wave it around. And you see the flux didn't melt immediately as it touched the board. So I'm just gonna wait another second. I want the board to heat up more. And then the reason I'm doing that is I want the flux to melt as soon as it touches the board. And then I'm gonna wipe the flux all around all of the pads. And I'm just gonna let it sit for a minute. I'm gonna let all of those pads, solder balls kind of work themselves together and make this look like a fresh reball. All right, so now it should be melted enough. Yeah, so not quite there, but I'm still able to kind of rub the flux on it. You see that I'm just doing that like that. We'll kind of move the scope as we go. Just like that, and I'm going to continue to eject the flux first so I have a little bit of tail off of it. And just kind of rub it on. Just like that. We'll keep going. Down here too. All right. All right, down over here. All right, so now we're gonna wait for that to heat up and I'm gonna let you guys look at what it looks like, make sure you're in clear focus as possible. Let me put you on, oh, those pads are good. So you can see these pads up here are the ones I want you to pay attention to, the ones that are half on there. While I open ZXW so I can get to the next part of our project, which is comparing the missing pads to ZXW to make sure none of them are important. And I highly doubt they will be, but if one of them are, then I'll show you how I take care of that. It's a very easy process. You don't have to reball the entire board again. And any minute now you should start to see those balls solidify and look like a fresh reball. You can already start to see the flux starting to boil there, or kind of have that effect that it has when it gets hot. So you know we're almost there. And you're about to see surface tension at work. And look at that. That's them on there. All right. So now we're going to quickly and visually inspect the entire board. We want to make sure they're all melted like that, and it looks like they are. Good. Oh, those guys there, not quite. Oh, there they go. I'm going to keep moving, and you will see all of them are perfect. These little end pieces up. There they go. All right, just like that. Okay, so now we're going to turn off the bottom heat. We're gonna let that cool, because then what the next step here is again to confirm with ZXW. So let's see if I can do that here. Screen. All right, so let's see if I can actually do, sorry guys about all this, let's see if I can do screen and camera here. Where is OBS? All right, so now we have that. We can look at the pads here. So the first ones I'm going to look at are over by the screw posts, and it looks like they are all of those are ground, so no need to worry about them. All of the ones that are missing anyway are ground. And we will go up to the top up here where we had some missing. All right, so that is, what do you want to call that? Let's see. 2 away from the indent, so yeah, those are ground as well, don't need to worry about those. And over here on the side, all right, so let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 over, and we have 3. Those 3 are ground. The one right next to it actually is a data pad, so that's good, we got that one. And then this one over here, that's a little shy. Those are also ground, so not important. And then we had one over here on the very end of the corner, also ground, not important. And do we have any more? Oh yeah, over here on that corner, not ground, that's not important. And then we have like in between this crevice here, 3 missing, but those are all ground as you can see from ZXW. And then the 2 pads over here, and those are ground according to ZXW. So we really don't have to do anything else to this board for the reball because everything worked properly. The only ones that are missing are ground, and there's plenty of ground there to connect it to, so we do not have to worry about that. All right? All right, before we continue on to our next part here, I just want to apologize for this camera work. I have spent now 40 minutes trying to get this camera to focus on this board, and it doesn't work. I don't know. It'll focus on my hand, it'll focus on me, but when I'm trying to show my work, it's like, they want to see it blurry. And so I guess I got to get new cameras if I keep making videos. I just want to apologize about that, but here we go. Now that the board is cooled, okay, it's cool enough for me to touch and everything, and that is important because what I'm going to do next is align the bottom and top board with no heat. All right, I want it to be so I can touch it. I want it to be as close as possible. That way, when the solder balls melt, surface tension kicks in and everything joins up properly. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that part next. I'm going to switch you over, and that's what I'm talking about. You see how that it's just it's almost like I don't even want to make the video at this point because just how out of focus this is. And literally, I've tried to bring it up, I've tried to bring it down. It doesn't matter. It continues just to go out of focus. I don't know what it is. So that's really annoying, and I'm sorry, and it's bothering me even to the point where I almost don't want to make this video. But I will continue because I promised I would. Okay, so remember we did wick our top board. So now we can just kind of put this down on here. And again, I am just going to kind of look at it and make sure that it is completely aligned or as close as possible on all sides. And it does look that way. Let me just knock this over a little bit more. And okay, so now let me show you through the scope so you can actually see it, because this is just god awful. Let's see, scope. All right, zoom out a little bit. Focus it up. All right, so now you can kind of see that what I'm looking for. I'm just kind of looking to see. You can see right here it is a little off, but I don't think my OCD is going to kill me. I'll just tap that a little bit over. Boop. Oh, too far. All right, that should be good. And again, I kind of continue to look. Now because I knocked that other one too far, this one's going to be off a tad, so just touch it just a little bit. All right, there we go. All right, that looks, see, now this one's off again. All right, so this is the constant battle that you are going to go through if you're nervous, this is your first time. You're going to be like, oh, it's got to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's got to be pretty close, though. I don't know if I want to start the heat with it like that. This one over here. There we go. All right, I'm going to have to live with that. And if it doesn't work, then I get to start over again. All right, so now I'm going to turn on my heat. And I'm going to simply wait. All right? And you'll see what I'm waiting for is once it gets the temperature, you'll kind of notice it'll start to bubble a little bit. You might even see the board right here move into place. But what the real key is going to be is how I know it's going to be ready is when I'm able to rock it, which means touch the top part of the board there, and it will kind of kick back into place. And you'll see that work in just a moment here once the board gets up to temperature. All right, now I'm going to try to do the rock. Nope, still not ready. See how she moved and didn't go back? Go another minute or two. No, go back, go back, go back. I think I messed up. I think I brought it too far over before she was ready. Oh man, I think I messed this one up. That's what happens when you try to move too fast, I guess. All right, now she's ready. Okay, so you see how I did that? I just kind of knocked her a little bit and she knocks back into place. Now I'm gonna do that on each side, and I've noticed that doing this on each side actually helps. Like if you have the warped board or something like that where one side sticks up better, the pads aren't touching properly, then this kind of helps with that. Got that side. Now I'm going to do this end over here. Oh no, stay on the damn heater. That side there. And then just one more time over here all the way on the end. Just like that. All right, now I'm going to shut off the board heater and I'm going to allow the board to cool. And the next step after that is we are going to essentially plug it up to the DC power supply to see if there's a shorts, okay? All right, so now while we wait for the board to cool, the first thing that we're going to expect if we failed is a main short. If we plug in a DC power supply and it immediately draws 4 amps or however high I have my DC power supply set to, then we know that we messed up in that reball. I have a suspicion that I messed up there and I'm gonna have to redo this whole process because I nudged it early and I nudged it in the wrong direction. If I nudged it towards me, it probably would have been okay. But I nudged it further away from the right track, and so if those solder balls were melted enough to kind of join up, that they definitely would have. But we'll see. You know, I still let the sandwich, you know, continue. So, or you know, I still continue to put the sandwich together. So hopefully it works, but we'll find out in a few minutes. It's probably going to take about 5 or 10 minutes to cool to the point where I can take it off the board heater and put it on my scope to let it cool faster. So I will be back then. Alright guys, so the board is cool. So now the next step, like I was saying, was to essentially check to see if there's any main shorts or shorts at all on the board. So what we're going to do is go ahead and connect it to a DC power supply. I'm not going to have it connected to my DC power supply for the whole boot process because like I mentioned, I bought the iPower and it broke, and now for some reason it loops the phone instead of actually booting it. I'll tell you, that was a fun day when I realized that it was not the phone, it was the equipment that I was using. I was not happy because I spent a good amount of time diagnosing that. So, I'm just going to connect this here. And you'll have to just trust me as I tell you on the DC power supply. I get 40 milliamps at first, which is normal for this device, and then it drops down to 0, so I am good from there. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to prompt to boot. And prompting. It is prompting normally. That is showing me it's a good sign. And on this one that's broken, I'm going to get about to 400 milliamps before it just decides to show me the Apple logo and die. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to put this in the housing here. I'll switch you guys over to the camera that won't focus. All right. I really enjoy how they made these iPhone 13s where it's such a pain in the butt to get them in and out of the housings because of this stupid antenna that Apple put there just to be annoying. And they also basically have to take out the battery to take out the board because of that antenna. How dumb is that? I could sit and rant about Apple all day. All right, so those are the things that I'm going to need for the phone not to restart. Let me go ahead and pop the screen on. And let's see if she will prompt to boot with the power button. I've noticed that this does, okay, it worked. This doesn't always work. Like whenever I resplit the board, the first time that I try to prompt to boot the device, it looks like it's fading on the camera. It's not fading in real life. It's just the camera being dumb. I'm gonna have to get some new ones. But what was I saying? Oh, it doesn't always prompt to boot with the power button when I resandwich it. Sometimes I have to plug it in and then the power button works fine. I can prompt to boot after that, but not much I don't know what it is, but it doesn't always do that, just sometimes. Okay, so the phone is on, it's booted. I don't have any errors or anything like that, like temperature warnings or any crazy stuff like that. But the phone is disabled. It says 5 minutes. It wants me to try again in 5 minutes. Instead, because this client did not give me the password, and I'm going to have to yell at him about that later, what I'm going to do is just boot it into diagnostic mode and try to connect to Wi-Fi and see if Wi-Fi works. Okay, so in order to do that, I believe we have to hold the volume up and volume down and plug it into a computer. Now, my Mac Mini is currently, all of the ports are being used up with cameras and other stuff, so I'm going to use my wife's laptop here that I have sitting here just to plug this in with. Watch this laptop be dead. That would be my life. All right. Warning, critical battery. Of course you are dead. All right. Let's see. All right, make sure this is on all the way and logged in. Okay, so just gonna hold down the volume buttons and I'm going to plug in and I'm going to continue to hold until I see the Apple logo. There we go, I can release now. And now she should boot to diagnostic mode if I did that properly. We're counting on my memory. Sorry, I'll cut that part. I had to respond to a message. So now we're going to see, I get IMEI. That's good. That tells me that the baseband is working, right? So good, that part of the Reball worked. Now we're gonna wait for Wi-Fi. This is the most important part. Watch it not work. Oh my goodness, what a fail of a video this would be. I don't have any of the antennas plugged in, so that, come on. Come on. Don't make me plug in the damn antennas. That would be so dumb. Alright, so as you see, after I plug in the antennas, I do get Wi-Fi reception. I've got only 2 around me, mine, Geek Boy, and Netgear, but you guys can't see that because, of course, this is the worst camera that I've ever bought. And it actually worked fine, to go on a rant about that. It worked fine when I was making videos last year, but when you just have them shoved in a drawer, I guess they tend to break. But there you go. We have a successful Reball and a successful repair. Have a good day, guys.